Get my power on here.
My guest today is John U. Sharpe, co-author of the upcoming memoir, Basically Speaking, from Nashville bassist Dave Fowler, coming out through V13 Press. Now, John's background is not what you'd expect from someone writing a music memoir. He's had a life that spanned everything from water purification patents, magazine publishing, SEO in the early days of the internet. He's had a career that he himself acknowledges is a rather helter-skelter one. But in 2018, he crossed paths with Dave Fowler on the Rock Legends cruise, and he wrote a half-page article about him for the magazine Providence Neighbors, which he founded out in Tennessee, and that conversation never really stopped. Instead, it turned into a book. And honestly, that origin story alone tells you something about how the best creative partnerships happen. Thank you for joining me today, John.
Thanks for having me, Lance. I really appreciate it. Been a real great pleasure working with you all, and participating in this process with Dave has been an adventure in itself, and it's been everything that I never expected. Best way to say it.
I appreciate that. I really do. But likewise, and it's a mutual respect that's emerged from this, because I see that you're doing something that is so far outside of what your usual lane has been. Although your usual lane is not really any particular thing specifically, it's all over. But the same mind applies all the way through, and I see that with yourself. And it's wanting to create something great, something good. Yeah, no, I mean it sincerely. And with that, I usually start off with the same question each time. With Make Break, we're trying to figure out, for other creatives, we're trying to work out loud a little bit and go through it and examine like what actually works, what's broken, what it costs to pursue this life, and when to push versus when to turn. So I want to make sure that the trade-offs are visible so that artists and creators and authors can choose their friction consciously, deliberately. Basically, other podcasts ask, like, how did you succeed? I'm asking you, what did it cost? And more importantly, why are you still here? Right? So I got to ask, like, there's this question about illusion that I start off with. What did you believe about making it before you were inside the industry? And this is going to be a fun one, because I'm guessing that you're not going to feel like you're actually inside the industry, but you tell me.
Well, that's an interesting question, and I think I've been brought into the industry in some ways. I'll give you an example. How many people have been inside Dolly Parton's studio?
And you have. Wow.
And it's because of Dave, because of this process. Dave has been very, he's like family to me. He every time I come to Nashville, he opens up his house and his life, and he invites me to go wherever he's going, and it's been incredible. No, I've never been involved in the industry directly. I've always been into the music. From the time I was a child, I was always playing something, still play, still write, but never on the level of someone like Dave. So yeah, I've been brought into the industry, by Dave, and it's been incredible. And it still amazes me to this day the things that I've experienced with him. Went to a birthday party with Lori Morgan. I don't get invited to Lori Morgan's birthday party unless Dave brings me. So that's the kind of things that I've experienced with him, and it's been incredible.
And before he brought you into the fold, what did you believe specifically about what making it looks like before you were on the inside looking out finally?
I think that's kind of a tricky question, because there's two different paths. I'd say making it in terms of the book would be just to get the book accomplished is kind of the end goal. And we're very close, obviously, after quite a few years. It's tough keeping track of a musician that's still working. Let me tell you, they have a very busy lives, and Dave's no exception. In terms of my life in general, I've been retired pretty much since I started writing the book, so I've just been really concentrating on doing things I enjoy. My wife's had some health issues, so that's been front and center at our lives. But still, we've managed to have some fun along the way, and right now we're in the process of moving into hopefully our last home, before our days are over. And so on that end, I don't really have a lot other than to try to enjoy my life the best I can.
Yeah, it sounds like it's hard to think about like making it or that kind of thing, when you are actually just trying to like stay afloat. I guess that's a question about like what systems have actually kept you afloat. Do you have systems in place? I mean,
Yeah, I'd say we do. I think it's kind of one of those things where you just kind of take things as they come, I guess is the best way to say it. We have been on an adventure since we left Tennessee. We lived in an RV for 2 years, and that was not what we expected because COVID hit about that time. So we've just kind
oh
of
man.
gone where life has taken us. It really hasn't been anything specific. It's just kind of been dealing with whatever we had to deal with at the time. Has there been adversity? Absolutely. I mean, there's been times when, you know, it's been rough. It's been some sad days and some difficult times to get through. And I think that the one thing that we've had that's fortunate is that we've had our love for each other and our support for each other. And we, not to say that we're rich by any means, but we have enough money available to pay our bills and to live the simple lifestyle that we have. We're not, we don't live a life of luxury. We're just not those people. We both grew up pretty modestly, and we pretty much maintained that. And I think
Mhm.
that's where a lot of people get caught up in the glamour and everybody thinks that being successful is having this and that. And really being successful in your life, in my opinion, is being happy. And if you're not happy, you have nothing. If you're not content with where you are in life and what you're doing, that's the key to happiness. It has
Mm.
nothing to do with money, in my opinion. It's really about having an enjoyable life, and I'm grateful to say I have that. But it still has its challenges. It's never a smooth road.
No.
But I think it's a great trade-off. I'll take the adversity for what I have on the good side.
Yeah, I guess that leads to my next question, which is what part of this life, and I mean the creative life, costs you the most energy?
Well, I think I speak to your audience a little bit here because, as we all know, the creativity isn't something that you flip on and off with a switch. And this book has been a real challenge from that perspective because, first of all, as you mentioned in the beginning, I'm not a book writer. Never written a book, never thought of writing a book. So that is a challenge. As some days I wake up and I really want to get to it, and I'm a half hour in and I go, man, this just isn't going well. And then sometimes I'll sit down on the other side of that and say, I'm going to write for a few minutes. And 2 hours later, here I am,
Hmm.
and I look back and go, wow, that turned out really well. So the creativity part of it is really my biggest challenge in all this, is really shifting into gear when I have that creativity flow going. And then when I don't, just kind of accepting, hey, today's not my day and I'm just going to have to wait for another day. So that has been by far the biggest challenge, no question.
That is, you're in good company because you are among you don't know it, or maybe you do, but I've read a lot about writing. Everyone from Patchett's On Writing to Stephen King's On Writing, and Lamott's Bird by Bird, Julia Cameron's The Way of the Artist, or The Artist's Way, rather. So many more. Liz Gilbert's Big Magic, and Stephen Pressfield's War of Art,
Wow.
and still more. But all of them say the same damn thing that you just identified, which is it's not a tap. You don't get to just decide. However, almost always when you show up, and if the muse and inspiration finds you and you've already got your line in the water, oof, now that's the flow you're talking about. You
Yeah.
don't get to decide. Sometimes, and that 5 minutes that turn into 2 hours. Oh man, when you said that, I was like, oh, that's the flow. That's the stuff that's like you come out of that. Like it's funny how I myself have felt that, and then it's like working out. Like you do this thing and you feel so incredible afterwards, and yet when it comes to committing to sitting down and just going ahead and trying yet again, it feels like there's such resistance. There's such internal resistance.
Noted.
And even though we can know and even feel like the memory of like how something can feel, whether physically or in our soul or what have you. So it's so hard to like show up. I guess it leads into my next question. So basically all that is to say is that you're in good company. Like you're not, it's, it's actually kind of the mark of a writer in a way, which is, from me to you, hopefully that's a bit of a gift of insight I can share, because that's one of the things that helped me quite a lot.
Well, Lance, I'll say a couple things to, one thing is I read what you write every week about, you write about the artists and what's going on in the industry. And I think that's amazing that you can do that. I really do. I read them and I go, how does he do this week after week? I really am impressed. I think it's exceptional. And the other thing I wanted to mention too, the other challenge in that book writing, get back to that, is tracking Dave and getting him to open up. And I think we had that meeting yesterday and we were talking a little bit about that Dave is a hard, he's such a nice guy. He doesn't want to talk bad about anybody. He's such a great, kind soul.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a challenge to get him to open up, and, especially, my gosh, if he's going to say bad about somebody, it's a real challenge to get to the story. And I mean, that has been the other side of it. That has been somewhat of a challenge. So, that combination of, now you got to figure out how to say what Dave wants to say so that he's comfortable with saying it is another challenge for sure.
Yeah.
In this particular
100%.
instance.
Well, that's the interesting thing, is that I have the question, I guess, that I had coming up was what's the least glamorous thing that you've had to get good at doing in this process of trying to track down and trying to I guess nail him to the floor is a bit of a rough expression, but basically trying to get him to commit. But even that isn't the least glamorous thing. I'm sure that there's something that's even more persnickety or finicky that you can maybe point at.
I can. And I can tell you that this is something I never anticipated, but it got brought up pretty early on. When someone's been in doing something for over 40 years, to get them to chronologically tell you what they did when is, it's crazy. And at first I was kind of incredulous about it because he's had such contact with such, you don't remember when you jammed with Gregg Allman? You don't remember that, Dave? No, I don't. I think if I jammed with Gregg Allman, I would remember the day, the time, right? He doesn't remember.
Right.
But it was 40 years ago, So I get it, but it's frustrating. And you're trying to tell his story and saying, well, we don't know if this came before or after that. I'm going, you've got to have some kind of chronology to the story. And so that has been the biggest challenge, is trying to figure out what happened when, how did it happen? Where was he? He doesn't remember cities or states. It's been very difficult. And I think the other thing that's been difficult for me is writing a book. I published a magazine. I wrote half-page stories. I wrote, 2 or 3 pages. I didn't write, hundreds of pages. I never did that. So sticking to it and trying to make it all go together and make sense has been a very big challenge and very difficult.
Well, and credit to you, because I myself am going through the same process. I'm actually writing a memoir for another person who's a rather remarkable individual. And I've also been finding the same thing, trying to do long form content. I mean, I hate to call it that. Let's call it a book. I'm trying to write a book about someone else's life. And it literally got to the point, and this fella's very organized and a lot younger. And it's still so difficult to be like, hey, what year, how old were you? What grade? Okay. But then so I've literally I've got a spreadsheet, but I'm lucky that I can do that. There's no way that Dave, yeah. Oh, you did? Okay. There you go. See,
Absolutely.
Men of spreadsheets. Yes. Oh my gosh. I think our minds do work very similarly, for sure. I think we do have the same kind of approach to things, where we're just trying to tease out this ball of yarn. We're just trying to just bit by bit, we're
It's a great analogy.
Yeah, it feels like I use it because it feels true.
Yeah.
When it comes to when things do get hard, and this is a question about resistance, I think this is one of the biggest things for me, and part of the reason why I even started this in the first place is because we are told constantly, and we are shown constantly, through persistence, resilience, determination, grit, whatever you want to call it, through the consistent pursuit of something, you always
Mm-hmm.
push through.
Yeah.
And at the same time, until you don't, in which case you make that decision. Now, usually people consider that either failure or just quitting for no reason. But sometimes that's the unlock for people, is that we very rarely as a society talk about when it is the better decision to quit something. But I'm not saying this is, even as I'm asking that question, the automatic response for us is, oh, no, I'm not quitting this. And that's the funny thing is, like, we're constantly quitting certain things in this bigger process.
True.
For example, if you were to just constantly hammer away at him about, well, you got to tell me about Gregg Allman. No, I'm not taking no for an answer. Gregg Allman. If you had done that, if you'd been too persistent, if you had perseverated and just been, locked in and wouldn't hear of anything else, you would not be still writing with Dave at this point. I can imagine.
Absolutely.
So
No
I guess
doubt
my
about
question
it.
is.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry. So I guess my question is, how do you know whether to push through or, let it go?
Yeah, it's a delicate balance, no question. And I think one thing that I will say about Dave is that he understands that. I remember at one point telling him, Dave, you want me to tell your story. I just want to tell your story. I'm not trying to, because, you're probably experiencing this too. There's points of contention when you don't exactly agree on how to say something or, that type of thing. So there has been times when we've had to kind of back off and just say, you know what, let's just sleep on this and figure out how we're going to move forward, because obviously we don't agree and we have to both think about it and just kind of give ourselves some space for a minute. And then when we come back, it's kind of, we almost always end up meeting in the middle. Okay, well, we'll say this, but we won't say that. And I'll tell you, if I wanted to write, and let's just say the term expose on Dave, I got some stuff he's not talking about in the book, and I'm going to keep that because he doesn't want to talk about it. And
Right.
Do I wish he would talk about it? Yes, because I feel that's part of his story, but he's not going to talk about it. And I can't, I'm only going to, just upset him, and he's not going to go with it. So I just had to back off, several times and just say, okay, we'll just leave it alone then. And then sometimes he's relented and said, you know what? Yeah, that's something I do want to say. That you're right. Let's go with it. So it's been give and take. So, and I think in the end, he never really gets real upset with me because he understands I'm trying to accomplish the goal of telling his story. So that's kind of where we have an agreement, I guess you could say, in general, about the process.
Which is great. I mean, like, that delicate balance is what we talk about at V13 literally all the time. Like, Chris is the one who he says we came up with it. I credit him with, coming up with it. We talk about this a lot, love and logic. You got these two L's,
Right.
And it's the balance between those things. If there's an imbalance, then something's out of whack. If your approach is all love, it's stupid. If it's all logic, it's heartless. It's
right.
It's very, and so to me, I think that's the biggest thing, is the balance. Also one of the most difficult things to do, because we are in an imbalanced society, progressively more imbalanced, I would argue, but I'll leave it at that. My interest is in how to achieve and what people's things that they do to get back into balance. And for me, I think of what rituals or approaches or strategies you take when you can, first of all, can you tell when you're like not in the right place, when you're imbalanced? I mean, are you aware of when that is? Because that takes a certain level of insight and self-awareness, first of all.
I think that in this process, I think I've gotten to know Dave well enough to know when something's not sitting right with him, and he doesn't really have to say it. It's just I sense it, or I kind of get it in his response or his tone. I think that, I guess I spent a lot of years in sales and marketing, and so you get to read people, I guess is probably fun. Also a poker player, get to read people. So I
Right.
think,
Good.
I think that all plays into it, that I can sense when something's not feeling right to him, or to me, or something that I'm saying is not coming across to him. Maybe I'm saying it wrong, or maybe he's not understanding. So, but in the process now, I feel like I know. I mean, we've been doing this for, several years. I mean, now I know if something doesn't sit right with him. And I also, over the years, I've also encouraged him to tell me if something doesn't. Don't hold out on me. Don't sit there and go with something if you don't feel that's what the direction you want to go.
Hmm.
So there's been a lot of that too, that we've come to an understanding and come to know each other over the years, that we're pretty comfortable with where we're at. And as you know, we're in the final stages, so you're getting kind of the tone of it and seeing where we're at with it. And I think it's
Hmm.
really just kind of fine tuning everything at this point to get it to where it's ready to hit the press.
Yeah. And you guys are. And frankly, that's the part that has, this is the part that I think normally I ask this question, but I'm going to take that question away from you and I'm going to answer it for you. Cause like, what separates artists who last from artists who fade? I can tell you what your answer should ideally be, which is what you guys are doing. You guys are not, don't get me wrong. Like when we first met, you guys were just like, hey, listen, this thing's done. Let's get this going. And I very persistently disagreed, to put it mildly, but I
Yep.
also explained why in a way that isn't, like I said, love and logic. So if I was just pure logic and no love to it, I explained like what you've got is brilliant. And this deserves that little bit extra.
Right.
There's certain bits. If you read this again and I tell you what I'm thinking, all of a sudden that's the unlock of like, well, you're not wrong. But there's still a decision that needs to be made, which is, are we going to go through all of that extra work and effort and just like, not just hours, days, weeks, years of extra work to do this, to make this are we going to really achieve that vision? Is that what we're going to do? And to your collective credit, you have, and you are. And I am so proud and so blown away when people actually are faced with that and they actually make that choice of, because it's perfectly acceptable nowadays. People just want the result. They don't want to take the time that it takes. People think, oh,
Right.
I'll just use a bunch of prompts. I'll just feed the transcript and then this thing will just process it for me. And that, mate, there's a reason why we have what we have. It's because it's all, people think that a book is just a good idea. And they don't realize that the whole point of a book is the series of decisions that you've made and then going back and then making that all seem effortless over and over and over and over. That's what makes a writer. It's not just blah, done.
Right.
And it's certainly not, I'll have a large language model, whip up some prose. Absolutely not. It's not. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so that's the credit I'm giving you guys.
Well, I appreciate that. And I will give you credit in this way, Lance. Your input has been invaluable. And I truly mean that, because I think that it's, it's very easy to see something and say it's great because, hey, you created it. This is great stuff. I mean, I wrote my heart out, but everything that you've told us or, suggested to us has either been taken fully to heart, to where we said, you're absolutely right, or we said, let's talk about it. Like, we feel like you're saying this, we're saying that, we feel pretty strongly that we should do this. And that's a great trade-off, that, and I know I've said this to you before, but I will say it now for other people here. This book would not be what it was without you and V13. It would not be. It wouldn't be. And we've been looking along this process. We've been with two other publishers. We've signed agreements with two other publishers, and we just got to the point where we realized they're not our people. We let it run out. It was dated, so we're not under any obligation. But when we met you guys, we knew. I mean, within the first couple discussions with you all, we knew you were the right people. And so we have been grateful for your input, and I'm really thankful that we found you all, because I think this is going to be the best it can possibly be with you folks involved. I think it's just the right group of people getting this done, and it's really exciting. It's really, I'll tell you this. I might be getting a little ahead, but I've actually told Dave 2 or 3 times, find somebody else, Dave. I'm not your guy.
Wow.
I've told him, I said, you know what? I said, and I don't want anything. I'm not asking you for anything. I go, just take what I've done and give it to somebody that can get this done for you, because I'm just not the guy. And his answer every time has been, if this book is going to get written, either you're writing it or nobody's writing it. That's what he says to
Wow.
me every time. And so now I've just, I think I told him that 3 times. After the 3rd time, I went, all right, well then I guess I'm the guy. And
Yeah, you are.
I guess, it got this far. So I guess we're on the right track, but
You really are.
yeah, it's been rough, and like you say, you have to stick to it. I've been ready to throw in the towel a few times for sure. And the whole instant gratification. If someone had told me in the beginning this was going to take 5, 6 years, I probably would have said no. I would
No.
just, no, thanks,
No
man.
chance.
I want to do other things with this next 5 or 6 years. But
Right.
but that being said, there's been some great surprises too. Like I said, things I mentioned earlier, being drawn into the industry. He told me if there's ever a band I want to see at the Ryman, let him know, and he'll get me backstage. He wants to take me backstage to see the Grand Ole Opry. I mean, who gets to do that? It's
Man.
crazy. So I said,
Oh,
it's just incredible. So that's what I mean. And he knows all these people. And I'm such a fan of music in general and of his. It's like, I can't let the guy down. I just got to that point where I got to do this. I feel so compelled. And I also always have a hard time. And this is something that I say all the time. So I have to stick to it, is people say a lot of things, right? Oh, I'm going to do this.
mhm.
Oh, I'm going to do that. It's what you do. That's what matters. People talk all the time. Oh, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Get it done.
Hmm.
So now I'm sitting here going, all right, you want to say that to everybody else. Now say it to yourself. Get it done. Don't sit
Yeah.
here, don't sit here and keep talking about it and tell everybody how great it is. Now that get the damn thing done and get it out there. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm grateful for it. I'm thankful, and I'm glad that this is all happening the way it is. It's just been a real, very interesting ride for sure.
It really, there's so much to respond to in that. First of all, thank you so much for what you said about my involvement and our involvement. It means a lot. I struggle with receiving positive feedback. Weirdly, I got a weird thing about that, but I'm just going to be a grown ass man and accept it. And thank you.
Welcome.
For those who know me, you'll know how hard that is. So, but moving on to like the actual nuts and bolts of what you said, because there's so much to talk about there. Like where you've been at that stage where you're like, listen, I think maybe maybe I can't be the one to bear this. Like someone else has to. I have been there, man, but for you to have actually had the conversation and more than one occasion I think that shows a great deal of character actually, because you're not two-timing anyone with that. You're trying to be real honest and straightforward and say, listen, I'm having doubts and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I am having doubt and I do not know that I can commit to this because you deserve it, but I don't know that I'm questioning my capacity. Right.
Exactly.
And Dave, to his credit, is going to be Dave. Dave will do Dave. And Dave is going to say, nah, you're the one to do it. I made the right decision the first time. You'll do it. Or it is going to happen. And to his credit, I really do have to say, like, every person who knows him talks about how great a dude he is. And they're not wrong. He absolutely is.
Definitely.
And 100%. And so it's so much, I can imagine your having to even come to him in the first place would have been such a big insurmountable feeling task to even like, it would feel like, oh, I don't want to be the person to disappoint, but I don't know that I can do this.
Right.
And it's precisely because of that though, that you want to ask the question. So, and the beauty is that, and this is the part that I've always felt very strongly about your particular situation, because it matches my own so closely, is that you guys have the same relationship in terms of the writing of the book that I'm having with my own memoir that I'm writing with Andrew Tongue. The memoir's journey, if you had told me that this is going to take another 4-5 years, I would have said, nah, I'm good. I'm good.
All right.
We're good. I'm good.
Yep.
That's insane. No, it's not. I would have said, nah, it'll take less. God knows I did.
Yeah.
I fully I didn't lie through my teeth, but I'm like, I'm a good writer. I can get it. It's not a big deal. Nope. I'm actually very fortunate because I had, for that one, I actually had edits from someone who works at Penguin Random House, and he, using that connection was able to ask for them to like give a steer and give edit notes, developmental notes on that.
Uh-huh.
And isn't it incredible when you finally get to have that feedback come in, and it's actually quite at a high like level. It's not just, hey, what'd you think? Hey, it was good. You know what? Don't say anything. I'd rather you just didn't say. I don't want to hear that it was good. What I want to hear is whether or not that introduction of that character in that manner was a worthwhile endeavor, or whether it should be later on, or is the main theme showing itself, or is it way too apparent? Is the symbolism clear, or is it too ham-fisted? Like, let's get specific with it, please. Give me the goods. I want the actual criticism, because that's what improves us. And you and Dave have both said, yes, I want to improve, because otherwise it's the same thing. If somebody's just like, if somebody's just rubbish on playing notes, what, you think somebody else in the band isn't going to be like, hey, knock that off, fix it up, straighten up. Like, don't,
Right.
You know what I mean? If Dave hadn't been like the tightest damn player, you think that Dolly and, oh my gosh, of course, all these other
whoever
artists. Yeah. And all, like, pick an artist, he's toured with the likes of, oh my gosh,
Lori Morgan.
Yep.
Billy Bob Thornton. That's a real interesting story, how he got to be with Billy Bob, and now they're best friends. He was just backstage with them he sends me this, that's the thing is, you get all this, you're talking about the feedback,
Mm-hmm.
and he told me that he had Billy Bob read his story, and Billy Bob was impressed. And I went, what? Like, I mean,
wow.
and he says that like it's nothing. And I'm just thinking to myself, are you shitting me, Billy Bob?
Yeah, thank you.
Like, I mean, that's, that feedback. I mean, that's simple and kind of, but you're right. That's what you want, is you really want the honest feedback. You want to know, is this compelling or isn't it? Am I just writing a bunch of garbage, or does this something you really want to read? And it's been interesting to even try to explain, and you may have even run into this too, since you're doing a memoir. People aren't really understand. They think I'm writing a novel. I said, no, I'm not writing a novel. I'm not a novel writer. That is not me any day of the week. But but I'm writing a memoir, and ours is going to be unique because of, how we're doing it, and of course Dave's career, and then the pictures that he has taken pretty much from day one since he started in the industry, that we're going, I mean, that's going to be, no one has that. He's got
pictures blow people's
nobody
socks
on
off.
this earth has of people back in the day, Gregg Allman, when he was, who knows, like probably in his 30s, playing in this little club in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's just crazy stuff.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
How he went with Lori Morgan when she was just starting out. They were driving around Nashville in a van. And by the time he left Lori Morgan, they were doing worldwide tours. He was on that whole ride with her.
Craziness.
I mean, just stuff like that. And he's got pictures of it all. It's crazy, So that's just what I'm trying to, people that don't understand the book writing process don't get what's involved. And be honest with you, when I got into it, I didn't get what was involved either. Yeah, I've definitely learned as I've gone along a lot, but it's hard to explain to people, and people have so many different reactions when I try to explain it. It's funny. Some people I can tell are just like, that sounds like a bunch of crap. Like, I would never read that. And some people are thinking, man, that's really cool. Make sure I get a copy, like, tell me where I can buy it. I've had people, can I buy advanced copies? I go, you can have one right after I get it. But it's interesting to hear the different feedback I've gotten from people, and I appreciate it all, because I do want to know kind of what people think.
Hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Honestly. And I've had a couple people give me some pretty negative feedback, including one guy that writes articles and wrote articles for music artists. He just didn't like he didn't say it was a bad idea. He just didn't like how we were going about it. He thought there would be he didn't think that if the chronology isn't there, he doesn't think it's going to flow. I guess that was the best way for him to say it. And I said, well, I guess you'll just have to wait and see. And, maybe it'll change
We'll
your
see.
mind. Maybe it won't. I don't know. But
I think that things,
so, take the good with the
yeah,
bad, right?
I think it's dismissive. I think that people tend to be dismissive when they're operating at a certain level.
Mm-hmm.
I think it depends. Like it also could be like, could it be the wrong day, or is that actually like the genuine belief? And frankly, at the end of the day, that's one person's, granted professionals, but one professional's opinion, which is going to diverge sharply from the next one in line.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, it's not, I don't take it as negative. I don't take that as negative. I just think that it's almost, I won't say it's necessarily motivational, but it's certainly educational, informational. And
that's a
I
good
do
way of
need to
putting it.
accept the fact that just like any book, some people aren't going to like the book. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's all right. I'm not writing it for people to like it. I mean, I hope they do. I think it's very interesting. I think once they get into
It
it, I think
absolutely
they'll
is.
find it very compelling. But I'm not motivated by, I want a million people to love it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not my motivation. I want to tell Dave's story. It's a great story. It's a story like no one I've ever heard. I've never read.
Mm-hmm.
I read books. I've read other. And I mean, there's books out there about famous people, but Dave's book is very interesting because he's played with so many people that you like their songs. He's recorded with them. I mean, it's impressive, and he really has put in the work to get to where he has. There has been he has been handed nothing, literally has been handed
Nope.
nothing. He has worked for every bit of what he has accomplished and what he has.
Every single piece of that puzzle has been like pulled kicking and screaming into
Yes,
existence. I mean,
no
even he
question.
is pulled kicking and screaming into existence. I mean, even just the like Genesis story of like, hey, his mom shouldn't even be alive because shotgun blast the midriff is usually supposed to just kill a person, but
Right.
somehow
Yeah. Yeah.
just
Yeah,
didn't.
she got through it.
I'm like, what
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
What? That's how we're starting?
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
start of the story?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. It
My
is
gosh,
crazy.
like it's unbelievable. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. So that's it, is like, and so, with those struggles that you guys have had, I have to give you the credit. Like you showed up for it. And that's the difference, I think. And so that's why I kind of just leapt in to sort of say like, by the way, let's make sure that we know that like, I'm going to tee you off here because this is really what you should be saying, frankly, because it's credit where credit's due.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So I guess as we start the wrapping up of this, I guess I had to ask, like, if this, usually I phrase this question as like if this is like a North Star. So like if this stopped being, or once this stops, would this experience remain as part of your identity? Is this part of your identity now? Someone who has helped bring about someone else's story?
I think that is probably the case at some level. I think because I've really had a life. First of all, I've been blessed with a lot of great people in my life, a lot of great friends, family, and I think it certainly becomes a significant part of my story, my personality. But I've always kind of gone where life has taken me. I remember reading a book, imagine that, called Think and Grow Rich. And if anyone's ever, right now to read it, it would be very hokey. I think it was written in the 30s or 40s. But to summarize it, it basically said, kind of touching back on what I said earlier, the real key to a good life is being happy and loving what you do. And That is, I had water purification patents. Financially, a total disaster. I made literally no money.
Oh no.
Put in 3 years of my life. But you know what? I had the best time doing it. I loved it. I loved it. I lived on nothing. I drove a piece of shit car. And I worked my ass off 12, 14 hours a day, 6, 7 days a week. And I loved it. And
Mm.
the only thing that went wrong with that really was that the guy that I was in it with was a brilliant man, but he was a terrible businessman. And he had people investing in the company, and every time they gave him 20,000, he spent 30,000. And every time they gave him 50,000, he spent 80. And he was just that guy. He was always reaching for more. And we had
Gosh.
great disagreements over how to market the product. But that being said, that's part of my identity. That's something that I did that I enjoyed it. It wasn't great. It wasn't always perfect, obviously. It wasn't lucrative, but I liked doing it. And then but I'm really, I don't even know the right words to say the gratitude I feel for being able to participate in this. It actually makes me emotional to think that I'm writing Dave's story and that he chose me to do it. And it was also innocuous the way that we met. I don't think I even told you guys this story, but you mentioned we met on the Rock Legends cruise, but how we met was interesting. He was playing in Artemis Pyle, Artemis Pyle is Leonard Skinner's original drummer, and he has a band that they play Leonard Skinner, and they're outstanding. And so Dave was playing with Artemis Pyle, and he's very noticeable. When you see a picture of him, you'll see he's very, very recognizable. And so I saw him on stage, and I'm thinking, man, these guys they play Leonard Skinner better than Leonard Skinner. They were that good.
Wow.
And so I'm in the lunch line going into the cafeteria, and Dave's walking out. And so I see Dave, and I just point at him and go, man, you guys rocked, man. I go, you guys are amazing. And he goes, oh, thanks a lot. And I start to walk away, and he grabs my arm. And I'm already thinking, like, why does this guy want to talk to me, right? I'm talking to a guy that played in Artemis Pyle, right? I'm just thinking, I can't believe he even wants to talk to me. And he says, hey, man, he goes, I appreciate you saying that. He goes, where are you from? And that's how it started. I was living about 20 miles away from him. And so I told him where I lived, and he told me where he lived. I go, oh my God, we're neighbors. And he says, and he starts, and he says, what do you do? And I said, oh, I publish magazines with my wife. And he says, oh, that's cool. And I go, any chance we could do a story on you? And he says, yeah, I'd love that. He goes, here's my number. I'm thinking, this guy's giving me his number? I was just incredulous.
Wow.
So I did this story, and he says, I sent him the story, and he sent me a couple of pictures, and I said, I'm going to send over a draft, and I want you to approve it. So I sent it over, and he said, man, that's great. He goes, you're a really good writer, and I said, oh, thank you. So he published a magazine, and went out. He loved it. He said, can you bring me 30 copies? I go, absolutely. I'll bring them over. So I bring him over to his place, and we start talking, and he starts telling me about his life. He starts telling me, oh, yeah, I started out, and I did this and I did that. And he's just talking about all these people he's played with. And I just randomly said, as anyone would, wow, Dave, that's amazing. You should write a book. And that's literally how it started. I said, and he said, I've always wanted to write a book. You want to write my book? And I said, I don't know. I never wrote a book. I don't know. I guess we could try.
Oh my gosh.
And that's exactly how it started. But that's the kind of guy Dave is. He talks to everyone. He's just so open, and you get kind of that rock star almost aura about him because of how great he is as a musician. But he's just the nicest guy, and so genuine and down to earth. And that's literally how we started out writing this book. If he would have passed me up and just said, hey, thanks, man, and kept walking, never would have happened. It's that innocuous how that happened. So
it really, it's modest beginnings, and yet just the because of who you guys are and how you are, there's this flourishing, there's this fruition of like something else. And it's brought about this is why we talk about like how mindset is so important to everything, because, he could have just as easily have just been like, yep, great, thanks, yep. And then that's it. But instead, Dave was Dave.
Yeah.
But also you as well. You went ahead and said something. You said like, hey, that was amazing. And you gave credit where credit was due. You also engaged in that. He didn't just randomly touch you on the arm. No, you started that.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's it. It's like those creative sparks, we don't get to, we have such ideas of how these things are supposed to go. And then sure enough, life just goes, I'll do whatever I want to do. Thanks.
That's right.
I don't care about any of y'all plans. Like, whatever. Here we go.
Very true. Very true.
So I wanted to thank you for speaking with me about all this. I mean, it's near and dear to my heart what you're doing. And I'm also extremely excited for when people can actually read the finished product. We're getting close. We're getting closer and closer. Every day we keep showing up, and that's all we can do. I mean, it's funny that you said that, because this morning of all mornings, funny enough, it's been a week, it's been a year, it's been a lot, but all I can do, as my good friend, colleague, business partner, brother from another mother, Christopher Gonda, says, we are where we need to be, and change is the only constant. And I'll be damned if he isn't right. It's the thing that keeps us going. Is he's the kind of person that inspires that. And so to see how you and Dave have been getting on, it's a gift. So keep on going. And I'm looking forward to the next time we talk in this capacity. We'll probably be maybe promoting the darn thing.
Yeah. Talking about the book. Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to that.
But in the meantime, got to put the reps in.
Yeah. I know. I understand.
Yeah. Same here. I got it also. But thank you again, John. It really was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you for the time, Lance. I really appreciate it. And again, appreciate you guys so much. I'm so thankful we found you. You and V13 are going to be the key to all this happening the way it should. Very grateful.